Mic Drop Moments is sponsored by Grow Radio. Want to launch your own podcast? Grow Radio are here to help. Grow Radio has launched and supported countless podcasts, and they'd love to do the same for you. Just hit record and they'll handle the rest. No editing stress, no technical faff, just a great podcast released when you want. Need a little extra support? Grow Radio's workshops and courses make getting started easy. Let's bring your podcast to life. Message Grow Radio on social media or reach out to Gary Jones, the founder of Grow Radio. Let's make this happen. Welcome to Mic Drop Moments, and today I've got a very special guest, VJ Hamilton. Now, I'm useless at introducing people, so I'm going to ask VJ to introduce herself to you right now.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Yes, I'm VJ. I'm a registered nutritionist and a functional medicine practitioner, and I specialize in autoimmune disease. And I think more people are familiar with autoimmune disease, but autoimmune diseases are many conditions, including arthritis, alopecia, skin issues like psoriasis, and they're conditions where the immune system starts to attack self-tissue. And I've experienced those myself, which is why I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. And I have my own clinic, the Autoimmune Nutrition Clinic, and I share lots of information on my podcast, The Autoimmune Reset. So yeah, it's been a long journey to get here, but this is what I do today.
So tell us a little bit about your backstory then, and some of those autoimmune issues that you had that led you to be doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, so my story started when I was quite young. I was just 7 years old, and my parents discovered a circular patch of hair loss at the back of my head. And that was later diagnosed by a dermatologist as alopecia. And at the time, I don't think really people thought of it as an autoimmune condition or an immune condition. They thought of it more as a hair condition. And even to the point where my parents tried to claim on insurance, it was seen as a cosmetic issue. And my mum was a nurse at the time. She'd been training as a nurse when I was younger as well. And I think she just thought, actually, maybe we need to switch up this cereal and start eating boiled eggs for breakfast, just little things. But I think back in the late 80s, early 90s, no one was really thinking that way. But fortunately, my hair grew back, but unfortunately, it kept falling out again and again in cycles until I was in my 30s. And in my teenage years, I developed psoriasis as well. And then when I was studying for my A levels, maybe just before that, I noticed that I was experiencing lots of fatigue. So even during my A levels, I was pretty conscientious, but I would go home and nap in an afternoon, and then I'd get up and study. But there was definitely something not quite right, but I didn't really know what it was. And then went to university, back and forward to the doctors. They said I had the sister virus to glandular fever, and I wasn't really looking after myself at university either. But then for whatever reason, I was studying biochemistry and immunology at uni because I wanted to learn more about autoimmune disease, to be honest. But then went traveling to Australia and became a chartered accountant when I got back. Just wanted to work in the corporate world. I'd kind of seen a bit of it out in Sydney. But I was still massively struggling with fatigue, experiencing the skin issues. I developed joint issues. Just life was a struggle. And I wish I'd noticed the symptoms earlier. But then, got a really good job in London, went to London, was working up the career ladder. But I was just working, doing exercise when I could and just crashing out. That was my life for about 5 years, to be honest. And I just thought I need to do something about this. And so in my early 30s, I went to a nutrition conference, discovered functional medicine about looking at the root cause of your symptoms, and worked with an amazing nutritionist who just completely changed my life and obviously changed my career as well. And within 6 months, my energy was back. And within a year or so, my hair grew back, and it stayed growing back as well. And then my skin issues went away. I could do weight bearing on my joints to the point I became a Pilates instructor. So I did so many different things, and it was just life changing. And I that's who I'm working with today. Started my business. And that's why I had the clinic today. And there was a time where I was still working in international tax for a corporate. I was doing that while starting my business. And then when lockdown happened, I just thought, actually, I'm just going to do this full time now. And I have never looked back since that point.
Yeah, and I've listened to your podcast. It's really good. I love some of the topics you cover. And, that is a big transition from corporate tax to functional medicine and nutrition. But it's almost as if it's a circle moment, because when you were at university, you were sort of studying that, and you'd obviously lived through this lived experience. So do you feel that actually it was always waiting for you? You just needed to find time to find it?
I think so. It's probably what I always wanted to do. I mean, after university, I started looking at becoming a dietitian. I was just quite lost after university. I looked at doing a PhD, then a dietitian, then a teacher. I went into a school and taught biology for a while, and then I ended up going for an interview at an accountancy firm and getting the job, and it just seemed like a good place to work with lots of perks, to be honest. So I just took that job, and I don't regret it. I met some amazing people. I met my husband. I learned a lot about the world. I got to travel with a lot of the businesses that I was in. So I think that's really helped me actually in setting up my business as well, because
Yeah.
all the skills that I learned during that 14 years, I obviously use in my business today, because I am a nutritionist, and that's what when I introduce myself, that's what I call myself, but I am also a business owner. So I'm doing all the business side of things as well.
A lot of people do go into business actually and haven't got a clue. I remember my first business, a solicitor's practice, but nobody had taught me business. I just opened up this solicitor's practice, and that's where I failed immediately, because I hadn't got the business basics in place. Obviously, I learned them up, but I was learning them on the go. And I think
Yeah.
so many people open a business and then forget it's a business and focus on the passion, but forget about all the other stuff that's going on, all the foundations that need to be there in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my dad has his own business, and I think through working there when I was a teenager and on and off during university, I saw, I learned a lot there as well as like
Yeah.
my experience as an accountant. But I think even when I was working as an accountant, I always wanted to be kind of doing the sales or the marketing, or I really got involved in the business. I mean, you need to do that in tax anyway. So I just love that business side of what I'm doing now as well. But I think my true passion comes from helping people who have these chronic illnesses, who are going through what I went through, to be honest. And most of my clients have symptoms very similar to the symptoms that I had.
Yeah. So how do you start with somebody? How do you identify what the root cause is, and how long does that take?
It can be very obvious straight away with some clients. So I ask my clients to complete a comprehensive questionnaire. They do that. I go through their symptoms, their family history, their health history, their life, their timeline, which I call their story. All those things helps me create a picture of what's going on. And through experience and through the research, it gives me a better understanding of what might be at the root of that. And so that's part of it. And sometimes that's enough. And then I'll be honest, I work with more complex conditions. So often we need to dig deeper. And I offer lots of different functional tests. Like I offer stool testing, so you can understand a bit more about what's going on in the gut, whether somebody's digesting food, if they've got bacterial overgrowth, if they've got inflammation. I look at people's hormones, so their stress hormones like cortisol, but also their sex hormones. Are they out of balance? I will look at nutrient deficiencies, and we can do testing around cellular health as well, because if you think about the root of anybody's symptoms, it starts with the cells. So we can do testing around that as well. And then if somebody it's not improving when we've worked on those different areas, we might look at other areas like mold toxicity or chemical toxicity. So sometimes there are more niche things going on, but that's not in a large number of the clients that I'm working with.
Mm. So people are obviously coming to you because they're really at their wits' end with whatever condition they've got. You say the complex conditions. They may have lived with them for years, but they just really feel as if they want to find the root cause and resolve it. Do you get people come to you that you just can't help, that you just can't, that they need medical intervention?
I would say medical intervention should always be considered in any condition. And as a nutritionist, I work alongside anything that anybody's doing with conventional medicine. I'm not an alternative. So if somebody's on medications, then I can work alongside them. And the best news I get is when a client turns around to me and they've talked to their doctor and they've been able to come off
Yeah.
medication by working with their doctor. That's brilliant. And some clients aren't on medication and they want to take a more natural approach. And yeah, I do find, unfortunately, that people come to me when they are at the last straw, a little bit like I was. I was completely depleted and fatigued, muscle sore, pain, everything going on by the time I looked for help. And I find my clients do that as well. And what I wish is that clients would come to me when they first start noticing symptoms, and we can be a bit more proactive then, and it's a lot quicker to resolve. When I first started out, I was working with a lot of people that I'd worked with in corporates, and they were really looking at optimization and longevity rather than being chronically ill. And that's an exciting area as well. And sometimes I will work with clients who just want to be the best, feel the best that they can possibly feel. But most of the time, people are coming to me with an autoimmune condition or chronic illness, because that's my specialism, and that's what I enjoy doing the most.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. I suppose every case is different. Every case is a challenge, and every case you're discovering something new for that person. So, sounds really rewarding. Do you think now, looking back at your corporate career and the career you're doing now, is it the fact that you feel that you're making a difference in the world, whereas you weren't in the corporate? I mean, I was a solicitor. I felt as if I was making a difference, but it's a job at the end of the day, and you're doing something because somebody needs it rather than making a personal difference to somebody. Do you ever get that feeling?
I do, and it's not to say that some people who are working in corporate tax, they might be getting the feeling in that
Yeah.
role. I feel like I just jumped into accountancy and I did the best I could with that career,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. And as I said, I met some amazing people, worked for some incredible companies. But I was not being my true self in that role. I was turning up to work, doing my best, but I didn't feel like me. And probably that was part of the issue. And I started working for a tech company and they offered life coaching for free. So I was like, oh, I may as well, every 2 weeks went and went to see this life coach. And she helped me so much, to be honest, to realize that I wasn't working in the right job and that I needed to follow my passion. I remember saying to her, I mean, this was probably over 10 years ago, but saying, I'd like to be the autoimmunity nutritionist and specialize in that specific area. And she's like, well, right, you can do that. And we went through lots of exercises and I realized that, yeah, I could do that. I was training as a nutritionist at the time, but yeah, it's just looking back, I can see that going into work every day and pretending to be somebody you're not probably isn't the best thing for your health. Whereas now I just feel like I can be totally myself because I am like obsessed about health and nutrition. I like other things as well, but it's nice to come to work and as you say, it's very rewarding as well, helping people, knowing what they're going through because you've been through it. And seeing their life change because when people get their health back, it's not just their health that improves. It's like they change their hobbies and sometimes they change their careers as well. And that's just amazing.
I think, I always say to people, if you love what you love what you do when you get out of bed in the morning, it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like, you're just living what you're supposed to be doing. And
Yeah.
I always say, if I get out of bed and don't want to do what I'm doing, then I'm in the wrong job. And you've got power within you to change it, and you have, and I've changed completely as well. What obviously with the work that you do, are you continually learning? Are you having to update your knowledge all the time? Are there new things coming out? How do you keep abreast of everything?
There's always new things coming out, there's new research, and there's lots of different qualifications you can do. Like I went through the functional medicine practitioner's qualification, which is certified through IFM in the US. And that was brilliant doing that. And then there are lots of other certifications that you can do if you wanted to specialize in brain health or blood sugar regulation or cancer can be something that people specialize in. So there's or eating disorders. I mean, there's lots of different ones. So you can continue to study, and then the research is changing anyway. The latest thing is peptides. So although as a nutritionist, I'd never be prescribing anybody peptides because that's for a doctor. But it's just knowing how they work, and actually once you understand the mechanism, you can see what natural products might be able to do something similar. So yeah, you have to keep your knowledge going all the time. I mean, I must be learning at least a couple of hours of every week when I'm not doing a training course or a certification. And then when I'm doing a certification, you can be doing a whole day of learning every week. But I just love it. So it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like hard work. And then, there's so many different books that are written and they're coming out all the time as well. So I'll often have an audio book on the go that's something around health. And then if I think it's good, I'll buy it and then, highlight different sections. So yeah, there's always more to learn. But yeah, with everything you learn, yeah, it's great because you suddenly discover something else that you can help your client with.
Yeah. And, I never talk about going back or hindsight or anything like that, but you must sometimes look back at the little girl you were with those autoimmune conditions and think, oh God, if only I was, able to help her then. But then you probably needed to go through that journey to experience what you've experienced. I say nobody can help somebody without that lived experience. And going through that, you've got that empathy instantly with your
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. And I think that's why I feel I'm doing, I feel my most purposeful when I'm working with children who are between 7 and 18 and knowing what they're going through because it does really affect you, your self-confidence, your decisions that you make. And yeah, so that's when and I see their hair grow back and I see their confidence come back. It just makes such a difference. And yeah, that's where I'm like, this is what I should be doing in life. I mean, I love working with adults as well, but I just feel like because I went through that, I'm glad that I can give back in that way.
Yeah, yeah. And the fact that you've niched into because so many nutritionists out there and some are very general, you don't really understand what you go to them for. But the fact that you've niched in autoimmunity means that actually you're working with the people that you can help the most.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to work with autoimmune disease. Even when I was working with my colleagues from the accountancy firms at the beginning, who were brilliant because they helped me gain experience. But I just thought this isn't what I should be doing. I'd like to help people who really need it. Not that they don't need it, but not in the same way.
So what's on the horizon? What you're looking forward to? What have you got coming up?
I love writing, so I am putting my sights to write my book this year, which I'm very excited about. And I would like to offer more in terms of being able to share a bit more knowledge with people in different ways. So I'm looking at different ways to do that as well this year. But yeah, the book is the kind of the main focus in order to do that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be writing over the summer, which is why I'm not doing any more certification or anything at the minute. I was like, I'll be learning all the time while I'm writing my book as well.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds fantastic. Can't wait to see you publish that. Um, I always ask my guests if they will share a piece of wisdom, a top tip, or golden nugget. I call it your mic drop moment. So, what would you like to leave the audience with?
Given my story, what I would like to say to the audience is that sometimes we ignore our symptoms or we try and find a way to hide our symptoms, which is certainly something I did. But actually, our symptoms are telling us something. Even when I had hair loss and I had psoriasis and I was falling asleep in the afternoon and couldn't keep my eyes open, I didn't once think, maybe there's something not quite right here. And it took me until I was at my absolute worst to realize that I needed to do something about it because I was getting dismissed by doctors as well. But if you are having symptoms, almost thank your body for those because it's giving you that information that there is something probably not quite right and it's worth looking into. I wish I had done it sooner, but as you said, Sandra, like sometimes things in life happen for a reason. Maybe I had to experience that to help people today. But if you are experiencing symptoms, get ahead of it. Don't wait for a diagnosis. There are things that you can do before you get to that point. So that's what I'd like to leave everybody with. And just observe your body, listen to your body. Sometimes we're quite disconnected. So just give yourself those moments to just really feel into your body and just make sure that everything's okay.
Great piece of advice and could be a life-saving piece of advice as well, because I hear so many people that ignore symptoms, ignore what the body's telling them, and find out they've got chronic illnesses. So, great piece of advice there. Just give us the name of your podcast before you go.
Yeah, it's the autoimmune reset. So, yeah, I cover lots of different topics on there, including autoimmune disease, but lots of topics about health and nutrition as well.
Yeah, it's a good listen. And we'll share all your contact details in the show notes. But VJ, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today.
Yeah, you too, Sandra. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I've loved getting to know you, and thank you for having me as a guest.